Hi, it's Lorna, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a pendant using polymer clay, beads, and various findings. This is what I'm going to be showing you how to make today. I'm going to be showing you how to make a UFO with some head pins and dangly beads and a little cow charm, and you're going to be adding beads into your clay. So this is the goal. So the head pins are going to be going here. And there's going to be 5 of them. They're going to be attached by jump rings to the bottom of your spaceship. And then these beads are going to be set in. And I have a larger jump ring for the top. So let's go over the materials and tools that you're going to need to make the pendant, the UFO pendant. So I have a piece of clay that I've marbled and rolled out. You can do whatever color you want. This is what's going to be for the base of my spaceship. And then I have some other clay here. I have some green that I'm going to be using, but I think I'm going to swap out my green for another color. I actually don't like it with this gray purple that I've made. So I'm going to swap it out for a yellow. And then I have white and black because I'm going to be making a cow. You can make whatever color cow you want. You could have it abducting a little human or a frog, whatever you want it to be abducting, or you can just have the rays and have no animal in there. You could also just do the UFO and not do any of the jewelry part. You could turn it into a magnet, or you could just have it on your shelf, whatever you feel. The beads I'm going to be using today are all glass. That's important to note because the glass beads will not melt in the oven. I'm going to be baking this at 200 degrees. So if I put plastic beads in there, it's likely they will melt. So I'm going to be using these attached to the head pins to dangle off of my spaceships. These little glass beads, they look silver, but they are glass. They're not metal. You could use metal beads. Sometimes metal beads get very hot, so be careful when you take it out of the oven. They take longer to cool. Same with glass beads, they take longer to cool. So if you're used to touching the Sculpey at a certain time, wait a little bit longer because they get hot. So these glass beads are metallic. I'm going to be insetting those into my Sculpey to look like little lights. So tools, you can use a rolling pin. I have one here. You could use a marker, use whatever you need. A pasta roller, which is what I've done here because I like the thickness that it gives me and the amount of effort that I don't have to put into it. And then I have a knife that is meant for Sculpey, but you could use an X-Acto blade, you could use a kitchen knife. You just don't want something that is serrated. No serrated knife for this because you want it to be nice and smooth. I have it on some baking paper so that it doesn't stick to my kitchen table here. You're going to need a pan to bake it on. Other tools that we're going to be needing are some chain nose pliers, these round guys. They're just round nose needle nose pliers. That's what I'm going to be using to turn the head pin into an eye pin, but you could use an eye pin for the centerpiece if you're going to attach a cow. If you're not going to attach a cow, keep it as a head pin. And then I also have some snips in there. And then I have my needle nose pliers here. So it's a 2-in-1 multi-tool. I love a good multi-tool, but if you don't have the needle nose pliers with the snips in the center, you can use a pair of snips. Okay, so let me swap out this green. Sometimes I will think of a color that I want, and then when I see them next to each other, because I think purple and green, that's going to be super cool. But then when I add these gray tones in there, and with this green, I really just am not the biggest fan. So that's important for me to know and to swap it out as soon as I can. So I have a few different yellows. I'm just going to put them side by side. It might be the lighting as well is kind of throwing me off. So let me change my lighting. Something a little warmer. It's probably the truest color. So I don't know if I want to go with a dark yellow or a light yellow. I am going to be using some gold, so it could be kind of cool to use gold, or I might just use white. I think white is the way I'm gonna go. Or maybe, no, just white. I'll go with white. I'm gonna grab an extra chunk of white for my little bubble at the top. I think that'll go nicely with the silvers that I have. The beads that I'm gonna be doing for the beam are gonna be a little bit warmer tone because in my brain, when you're being abducted, it's warm light. Hopefully none of you are going to be abducted though. That's no good. Yeah, we don't want to be abducted by aliens. Okay, so we have our sheet all rolled out, and this is what I'm going to be cutting the base of my UFO avalanche out of. So this part here, this oval, and then this circle here. So you could use something to help you cut your oval, or you can freehand it. I'm going to go ahead and freehand it. And right now I'm just doing kind of a lemon shape. So I have pointed ends, but I'm gonna cut those ends off. I find when I'm doing an oval, it's a little bit easier just to go from point to point. And when I'm drawing, I will erase my little points here. Fun fact, ellipses or ovals are one of the hardest shapes to draw. So I'm just gonna round out those corners. And if you are a pro at drawing ellipses, please go ahead and skip this step. Okay, so now I just need to round out my edges because they're very firm and I want my UFO to look like it is curved. I can also help my ellipse look a little bit more elliptical, a little bit more oval shaped here by just tapping out areas that are a little bit squashed. Okay, so I have the first part done. Now I want to add this part down here, and it's just a semicircle and it's larger than this circle up here. So I want it to be smaller than my oval and larger than the semicircle on top. So I'm going to take that same piece, and I don't really want my pattern to line up, so I'm going to use the back side. And it's nice that I have it already cut out here so I can see size, but if you don't, you can just measure it against this. So for this, you could take a circle and you could cut a round shape out of it. I don't have any circles this size, so I'm just gonna wing it. Save that piece for later in case there's any mistakes. Okay, so it looks like I've maybe made it a little bit too long, and I really don't like this cup part. It kind of looks like a little three-dimensional bowl, which is kind of cool, but not what I'm going for. So I'm actually gonna slice this straight across. I have a clay cutter around here somewhere. Okay. And then I'm going to just overlap this, push it up a little bit. Because I want this part here, the ring around it, to look like it is more three-dimensional. I want it to stick up a little bit more, so I'm gonna overlap it on top of this just ever so slightly, because I want to still be able to see this down here, especially because that is what my jump rings are going to be attached to, all 5 of them. are going to be attached to this. So once I have it in the place and I want to commit to it, I'm going to press down gently because I don't want to ruin my hard work there. Then I'm going to flop it over. Flop is the technical term, by the way. And then I'm just going to press with my tool to blend a little bit of this clay here down into the clay beneath it. And that's just going to add a seam. And you want to make sure that this is pretty smooth, so you might want to smooth it out with your finger afterwards, because this part is going to be touching your skin. It's a little off center. I don't mind it. And you don't want any prickly bits. You can sand it down after it's baked, but any amount of sanding that we can not have to do is great. A little bit bent up there, I need to fix that. This clay that I'm using, this polymer clay, is a wee bit soft. You could stick it in your freezer or refrigerator before handling it. My hands are warm, my clay is warm. It makes for kind of a difficult, mushy working surface. Okay, so now I need to do the semicircle at the top. So I'm just going to take a ball of white. I'm gonna roll that out to the same thickness as this. So I'm actually gonna use my pasta roller, but you could roll it the old-fashioned way. So I have a piece and I want it to be just up above. So I want to make a circle, well, semicircle. So I'm just going to draw that. This might be a bit large. No, you know, that works pretty good. So again, I'm overlapping because I want this piece to look like it's on top and in front of this piece. Okay, and it's not a perfect circle, it's a semicircle. I would say it has about a quarter of the circle missing, like the letter D. So I'm just going to put that down where I want it. Do a little tap to press it into place. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to, but instead of doing this on top of this, I'm going to be doing this one down into this. So the big piece down into the white because it's higher up. Smooth it out with your finger. And flip it over. Okay, now it's time for the beads. I'm going to be adding some beads around here. And I'm just going to set those in. I'm actually going to set them so that the hole shows because I want it to look like a light. And so I'm just going to position it where I want and press. And I want them to stick out just a little bit, so I'm not going to press them too far in. Grab it with my pliers so that you can see. You don't need to glue these in, they should stay right where you put them. If you're pressing them into the clay. If you're not pressing them into the clay, they're not gonna stick. You wanna make sure at least, I'd say about a quarter of the bead is into the clay so that it has something to grip onto. Just press those in. You can glue the beads on afterwards, or you can use some liquid Sculpey and set them in as well. those last two in. I'm gonna put one more. So our next step is that I'm gonna be punching some holes down here at the bottom and one at the top, and that's gonna be so that we can attach all our other findings. And while it's baking, we're gonna be adding the beads on. I think I'm actually going to take a little coil of this scrap clay and wrap it around the bottom to add a seam. So I'm just gonna make a coil out of this marbled clay. Again, this is super soft clay. Yeah, I think that really just adds a whole lot to it. And I'm just gonna trim it right at where it meets the white. And then I'm just gonna press down. I'm gonna blend the sides together to help it stick. You could make a little alien and put him in there. You can really customize this. You could customize it with the colors, the beads that you're insetting. Just really a whole lot of things that you can do. Okay, so to make the holes, you want to make sure that they're larger than you think, because if I were to just poke the hole with my head pin, and that's it, it would shrink in the oven, and it shrinks quite a bit. So you want to make sure that your hole is larger. I like to use an awl to poke my holes, but you could use the head pin, which is why I didn't grab my awl today. So you can use the head pin, but what you want to do is you want to take your head pin and you want to put it in the hole that you made, or make a hole if you haven't already. And you're just gonna wiggle it. And you're gonna wiggle it around and you'll see the hole get larger. You can make the hole larger after the Sculpey has baked. It's just a lot more difficult, just like the reason why we want to smooth things out before we bake it is we don't want to have to do drilling and sanding and all those things to our Sculpey piece in the end. Okay. So I'm just gonna add more holes on the other side, and then I'm gonna make a cow. Okay, so I'm back and all of my pieces have baked. I have my little cow. I've put a jump ring on him, so he's going to be hanging from my head pin, which I'm going to turn into an eye pin, and I have my spaceship, my little UFO, all my holes. I could sand down this a bit, I might do that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 5 head pins and I need to cut them before I start beading them. So I have 5. One of them, the center one, is going to be my longest, but again I'm going to be turning that into an eye pin. So what I need to do to turn it into an eye pin is I need to cut the head off of the head pin. So I'm just going to put this into my snips until the head catches. I'm going to cover it from the fly and cut. Okay, so now I just have a piece of metal essentially, and I'm going to take my chain nose pliers And I just want a tiny little loop. I don't want a big giant one, so I'm going to be putting it at the tip of my chain nose pliers. If you wanted a larger loop, you would move it down. And I'm just gonna turn it. And then I want it to be straight. So in my how to make jewelry video has gold beads, you'll see a more in-depth tutorial on how to do this. If you're interested, go check out that video. It shows you how to straighten up a head pin, how to turn an eye. Okay, so I want to make sure that there is no space in between here so that I can put my cowl on and he's not going to slip off while I'm wearing it. So I'm just going to go ahead and take my needle nose pliers and straighten that out. These needle nose pliers don't actually have grips in them, so they're not going to leave tool marks, which is great. And I just need to turn this just a little bit more. Now it's fully closed. Now I'm going to open up this jump ring and put it on. Close my jump ring, make sure that there's no space. So no space in between. And then I have a little dangly cow at the end of one of my head pins. Now, the tricky part is that I need my other head pins to be shorter. So I'm going to separate them into two piles. So I just want to go a little bit shorter than this one. So I'm going to cut off about, let's see, 1/2 inch. I don't have my ruler here, but that's okay. So I'm gonna cut off about 1/2 inch on this one, and then cut off about 1/2 inch on the other one. And you could have yours staggered in a line. You don't have to do the same design I'm doing. And I want to make sure that I'm cutting off the same amount off of these two, because these are going to be on either side of my cow. So this is going to be the center, then it's going to go to this one, and then it's going to go even shorter. So I just want to line it up where this head pin is cut. Always want to cut away from you, down into your bead mat. I'm not using a bead mat, so I'm holding it over. Underneath the table is great, but then you have to go pick up all your little ends, so it's just easier sometimes to do that. So what I want to do is line these up and see, did I cut enough off? I feel like that might be too straight across, and I might actually want to go ahead and cut a little bit more off of each side of this. So it'll bring it down to maybe 3/4 inch taken off. And I want to do the same on the other side. So that's how much more I took off there. Just another little over 1/4 inch. I'm cutting off screen just because it's for safety, a little bit easier for me to see. My eye safety is a little bit more important than catching everything on camera. Okay. So then I want these ones, yeah, I like that a lot better. I want to make sure that I'm lining them up at the top, because this is where they're all going to be joined at the top here. So I want these ones on the sides the very far sides to be even shorter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my head pin. You can use head pins that are according sizes. They sell them in all sorts of sizes. These are 2-inch head pins here. I don't have any other sizes, but to conserve material, it's also good to use the size that you have. So if you have little 1-inch ones or 2-inch ones or 3-inch ones, use them accordingly. So you may not have to cut them at all. If you have a variety of sizes, you can just pick the ones that you like. So I want this to be shorter, so I'm going to be cutting about in half. And because I'm cutting these in half, I'm actually going to save this material because I can make an eye pin out of it later on for another project. So I want to cut these at the same length. So now I have it looking like a little ray first. I have small to big in the center, and I have these extra pieces that I'm going to put in my jewelry kit and save for another project. Okay. So now with these, you just need to put your beads on, whatever color beads you want. You could leave them as is and just turn over the top, and that could be kind of cool, just little lines. You could add one bead at the end, get different animals in there, whatever you want. And then you're just gonna turn the top over just like we did for the bottom so that it can connect to the jump rings that we're gonna be putting on to our little spaceship here. So I'm gonna go ahead and time lapse that. And if you're interested in finding out more about how to close and open jump rings, how to make eye pins, how to close them, go ahead and check out my other video. There's a gold necklace and you'll see that. So, all right.